So, ladies and gentlemen, how can I say? Good morning from Greece, Kalimera. I mean, I'm very happy that I can see colleagues from all over the world, starting from the States and moving to Africa. So it's a great pleasure to have with us two colleagues, from a very close partner to the Hellenic Mediterranean University, Holon Institute of Technology from Israel. And we have, and they are going to share with us something that, or at least on my mind, distinguished, Holon as a partner among all the partners that we have. And these are two things. The multidisciplinary department, that it was quite ahead in the developments regarding what is happening in Europe with their approach. It's something that it looks like to me that it is a policy in a lot of US universities. And something else, this approach about co-teaching that I have heard from my friend Nava, but it looks that, also with discussion with Hubertus, a colleague from Wiesbaden, and other papers that I'm reading about virtual exchanges, is like the main approach in order to be efficient, in order to manage, but also, as I will say, and I will discuss later on, for other reasons. So together with us, we have two colleagues from Holon. First of all, I will start with the ladies of the panel, which is Dr. Gili Pelek, an academic staff of the School of Multidisciplinary Studies. She's an expert in facial expressions, and she has a PhD from the University of Haifa, the Institute of Evolution. Then the other panelist will be Dr. Yoel Tabil, a lecturer at Holon Institute of Technology with a PhD from the Ben-Gurion University in Israel. So the topic that we are going to discuss is about co-teaching approach, a lot of advantages regarding co-teaching, diverse perspectives. So I will give you an example. I will be next semester in the United States, and we're going to be two colleagues to speak, to teach face-to-face physics. Since I'm registered in the engineering department, I will be what can I say? I will be a co-supervisor of the physics course that the physics teacher will teach. So we're going to be two of us, and I will add some application of physics as my colleague from the physics department will teach, the fundamentals. So diverse perspectives, improved learning outcomes, shared responsibility, professional development, because we learn each other, we observe each other, and increased flexibility regarding the approaches. Challenges, of course, coordination and planning, trust, I will say, between the two professors, differences in teaching philosophy, increased time commitment in order to design such a scenario, assessment consistency, and also agreement and adaptability to feedback regarding each other. So these are, the general things that, I will try to identify. I would like to give the floor. I would like, first of all, to thank Nava Sheikh for the introduction and the proposal of such a workshop, and of course, Noga, another colleague from Holon Institute of Technology that coordinates, now a lot of activities of Holon in various projects, and of course, the speakers, Gili and Tavel. So I don't know to whom I will provide the floor first. I will start with ladies, following all traditions since I'm an old guy. So Gili, the floor is yours. If you have a different agreement, follow your agreement.
Thank you
very much. Toda Rabba for your contribution. This is the only thing that I know, apart that I'm Yavan. Okay? So.
Okay.
Thank you very much, dear Kostas, for this warm welcome and for pretty much stealing the entirety of our talk in your introduction. But it's really great to be here and to dear and esteemed colleagues. It's great to see again those of you that we know and to have new acquaintances. It's really great to be here. We would also like to express our gratitude to Dr. Nava Shaked, head of the School of Multidisciplinary Studies at HIT, for enabling this opportunity and also for supporting the co-teaching, the teaching in tandem, the subject that we are going to talk about. Thank you.
Okay, hello, and welcome to this meeting about teaching in tandem, a dialogue between Yoel and myself that will quickly turn into conversation once you decide to join in. So throughout, you will hear our voices, our intonation, you observe our facial expressions, gestures, and head nods. You may notice various emotions appearing and fading, and just the way we go along. In fact, you will be informed by universal biological features that we all share. And those features enable us to communicate and share information effectively. You may even find yourself responding, perhaps without realizing it, throughout subtle reactions. If I will smile, for example, some of you might instinctively smile back without realizing it.
So hello, and I too welcome all of you to this lecture about teaching in tandem, a dialogue between Gili, myself, and you, of course, which will be, as you will hear, see, and even feel, informed by symbolic interactionism. Forget biology, it's all culture. This is the acute awareness that there is a performativity that runs throughout the entire session. I will not behave as I do in other contexts, and neither will you. There are numerous social-cultural variables at work that inform my behavior as well as yours, rules, norms, values, do's and don'ts. And if I abide by them and perform adequately, my behavior will appear natural and unscripted. And so will yours. If you're smiling right now, that's because I shouldn't have mentioned any of this, for self-evident culture is noticeable only when it is discussed.
So as you might have guessed, I'm a biologist. My primary research area focuses on facial expressions, specifically on their hereditary basis. And through my work with individuals who were born blind, I have shown for the first time that they display their family unique facial expression signature, despite never having seen them. And this is the way they demonstrated the existence of genetic bases underlying the universal and innate nature of facial expressions.
And I am an anthropologist whose primary domain of interest is the anthropology of creativity. And creativity's cultural reverence. This is closely followed by medical anthropology. And since we are going to speak about medicine quite a bit, I should mention that I've been also working for the past 15 years as an improvisational actor, working with medical personnel for the purpose of enhancing their communication skills. I was also a team member of a ministerial research group which conducted research on end-of-life issues for the first time here in Israel. As for the creativity, it's a theme when I teach it, and a method most of the time.
It was Nava's idea to have us teach a course together. Why us? To this day, we honestly don't know, but we do know it actually works well. Now, to be serious, this connection arose from Nava's excellent intuition. And if we are discussing intuition, it's definitely not a mystical phenomena. Rather, it's an ability based on the activity of certain and specific brain areas. So we said it works, and we will try very hard to explain why.
Actually, writing this, we found out that it's quite multi-layered, the why. But we promise we won't make it boring. We also promise to be brutally honest. So, ready? Let's go.
We teach two courses together. The first was we devised and teach to this day is technology, communication, and the medical encounter. In this course, heterogeneous groups of students propose, in use case, of course, various technology solutions that enhance empathy and communication between patients and doctors during the medical encounter.
This was a natural subject for us, since Gili is a biologist and well-versed in recent developments in the fields such as technologies recognizing emotions, social robots, and considering my teaching and research in medical anthropology. The syllabus flowed rather easily and was quickly divided in three parts. The first, relating to the main challenges of public medical care today. The second, relating to empathy and performance. And the third, to instances in which only limited communication between doctor and patient is possible.
Ideally, each session is devoted to a single subject and divided into two parts, each offering a different approach to that subject. For example, in addressing the issue of violence against medical personnel, my perspective focuses on two key points. The first one, the expressions of biological precursors of violence as they first appear on a person's face, such as subtle expressions of hostility, and how these may manifest. And the second one is the perception of these precursors, including the biological mechanisms involved in recognizing them, with an understanding that not everyone has the same ability to interpret others' emotions. Awareness of these different factors might help prevent aggressive outbursts, which can sometimes tragically lead to harm or even death for medical personnel.
On that same day, following Gilly's lesson, the students will learn from me about the social, cultural, and environmental factors that either promote or hinder violent behavior, and the ways to manipulate them into a desirable outcome. I will discuss various social factors that may promote violence, such as enacting socially assigned roles, the importance of environmental aesthetics, or even the Israeli national character. Eventually, the students can enjoy a full and comprehensive approach to each subject.
It should be said that there are some certain exceptions to this, primarily rooted in our perspective fields in expertise. On some occasions, the way we complement each other to make the whole picture is a bit different. For example, if Yoel is teaching a lesson on politics and poetics of medical ethics,
Gilly will be the one that addresses most innovative solutions to some of the problems at hand.
And following the success of that course, we were offered the opportunity to teach another, the psychobiology of learning and memory. In this course, heterogeneous groups of students work together for the purpose of rendering various bits of information, such instructions, important locations, or complex course materials in other courses, into much more memorable versions of themselves. This is done by using a combination of different techniques and insights lifted from both biological mechanism and behavioral sciences.
While we prepared that course, there were instances in which we surprised ourselves as regards how well we occasionally complemented each other. A notable instances of this is what we came to call the rule of three, or the Holy Trinity. From a biological perspective, Gilly's perspective, a complete or optimal memory is comprised of the visual representation of a certain memory, the physical sensations associated with it, and the emotional impact it carries. That same triad has its counterpart in social cultural representations and psychological processes which may or may not connect with the Holy Trinity in biology. For example, many human symbols and representations, such as those that you currently see, either religious or secular or commonplace, comprise three components. And those reflect a psychosocial predispositions of humans evolved over millennia. And it is well documented that this predisposition is put to use when humans engage in creating culture. There are also other examples for this. Think of jokes when with the punchline being located after two failed establishing attempts, or the interpretation of time, right? Present, past, future, past, or the near universal knock, knock, knock on a door.
To demonstrate the principle of the Holy Trinity, from my perspective, I'd like to share an example of an optimal and a complete memory.
Wait a minute.
I'm waiting. And for this purpose, let's make it okay. And for this purpose, I choose a memory of my beloved Persian cat Yoda, who passed away 14 years ago. The memory of that adorable cat consists of, first of all, the appearance of his face, and this is the sight component. The sensation of touching him looks like touching cotton wool and this is the feeling I felt when I touched his soft belly fur. This was the sensation components, and the joy I experienced watching him lick his fur as if he were a soldier saluting his commander. This is the emotion component. And as a result, no student completed our course without vividly remembering Yoda. During this course, when I teach about brain structures involved in memory creation for learning processes, Yoel talks about the structure of the mind or consciousness. When he speaks of power relations between people in their attempts to build a narrative or construct a certain memory while highlighting certain components and downplaying others, I will discuss brain synchronization that occurs due to the activity of mirror neurons. This means that we do not live in vacuum. We influence each other, and by imitating each other's body and facial movements, we synchronize emotions and hopefully empathy as well.
We also synchronize the classes.
Sometimes it's even intentional.
As a rule, in both courses, students come to us with an initial idea for a project during the first 2 weeks of each course. And one of the advantages of us being multidisciplinary is our ability to offer guidance across a wide variety of subjects. And there will be eventually Gilly's projects and Yoel's projects. In the course Technology, Communication, and the Medical Encounter, for example, if a group of students are interested in creating an app or a website that concerns medical information for young adults based on youth culture, they will be closer to my topics. There was, for example, a project that aspired to help youngsters to find reliable information on the internet, say on sexuality or body image, but also to be able to send them as snippets to their GP, to their doctor, prior to a physical consultation, so that the responsibility to raise the issue and discuss it would rest on the doctor's shoulders instead of the young patient, who might lack confidence and get cold feet in the actual face-to-face interaction.
Which doesn't mean that I will have nothing to say about their project. In this case, I will provide guidance on how to present information on the website while considering how we perceive visual triggers. One of the projects closer to my topics concern patients who wake up from surgery who are sometimes too weak or confused to speak clearly. This project provides a system installed on a patient's bed, consisting of a tablet equipped with a camera and a microphone. The camera, which uses sophisticated software like SceneFace or Face Reader, can read the patient's lips and then identify emotions based on facial expressions, including signs of pain, of course. The microphone amplifies the patient's voice when needed, and additionally, icons representing keywords like cold, pain, hungry, family, doctor, and nurse are displayed on the screen, facilitate communication. In addition, doctors can also add other relevant icons based on each patient's personal needs.
So that's a Gilly project, but it does not mean that I will have nothing to say about this. In this case, I will provide guidance with the correct mapping of all involved, patients, medical personnel, and caregivers, as well as the means to extract relevant information, both medical and non-medical, which is beneficial for enhanced care.
There are also secondary ways in which each benefits the other, found in our ability to complement each other on a given subject, of course. For instance, I am more visually oriented than Yoel. Yoel is, to a certain extent, more a language-oriented person. So it happens that there is a certain division of labor in which I will make more use of the natural appeal of the visual medium that complement Yoel's way with words for instance, as written instructions or announcement during the courses. Perhaps more importantly, this oral mastery accompanies Yoel's penchant for comedy and quick-witted quips or banter, which the students seem to appreciate, because out of us two, he is largely the funny guy, and it makes me more comfortable to tap into my own personal comedic impulses whenever he does it first. Yoel is also closer in age to the students and more acquainted with their culture.
Okay, and that particular duality, actually, words and visuals, actually came in handy very recently when, in the course The Psychobiology of Learning and Memory, a group of students expressed their desire to turn telling or warning signs of being in an abusive relationship into a catchy song, an earworm, also known as the stuck song syndrome. It was done using AI. And following a few failed attempts, that group eventually did quite well. I do know my way around electronic music, and I also understood which kind of songs they were trying to emulate. Many songs in that catalog they were not necessarily aware of. This was both lyrically and in the signature sound. So then both of us, Gilly and myself, helped them create the accompanying video, but it was Gilly who gave them the golden advice.
Some of them were students of design, and I suggested them to create a line of related physical tangible products. The end result was both convincing and satisfying. It should be mentioned, Yoel will show you those products. It should be mentioned that such an enhanced collaborative effort and subsequent result in this particular case at this specific time is symptomatic of the process that the course itself, which has been taught only 3 times in this format, is currently undergoing. Through our work with the students, the final stages of its crystallizations are being achieved as ideas that stems from the alliance between the students and ourselves are constantly being evaluated and considered for formal inclusion into the course.
From my perspective, there's something to be said in regards to how multidisciplinarity benefits from such a collaboration. And that is the ways in which my domains of interest are sometimes validated by Gillies. In our course about medical empathy, for example, students that come from technological backgrounds sometimes struggle with the poetic aspects of medicine. Today, it is all the research in medicine, including all medical oaths, highlight that medicine is an art as much as it is a science, and for good reason. There are actual benefits in terms of outcomes and prognosis for for patients of empathic doctors, reduced hospitalization time and better prognosis. And those same doctors derive their empathy from enjoying non-medical literature or the arts. This is something that this is not something that is nice to have. It is a medical necessity. So understanding that is not a problem for students that come from an arty background, but students of exact sciences do struggle with it and often find it unnecessary. In such cases, when Gilly, who absolutely shares that vision in regards to the importance of medical empathy and its artistic nature, is empowered by the authority of the hard sciences, well, then it makes my job much easier as a scholar of humanities and social sciences when in front of skeptical students who may be tempted to see any problem relating to communication or empathy as something that should be resolved instrumentally. or mechanically.
As a rule, groups of students come to us with few general ideas they have an interest in, but the specific project they will work on comes from us. It is not the preferred situation, but that's what it is. And this is the reality of the work with students that do have a background, that do not have a background in biology or medicine, nor are directly studying these subjects. They do not have the previous knowledge of the various existing solutions in such fields, and some of their ideas may be problematic from an ethical standpoint. And over the course of a semester, there's a little time to be spent searching for the perfect idea. So we must often come up, Yoel and me, with the idea that should eventually be developed.
However, it should be said that the subject will be based on the student's experiences. In technology, communication, and the medical encounter, one student might say, well, I've been recently with my father to the emergency room, and this system is required there.
Another might say, I volunteer regularly in the ambulance, and we have that problem. A third student could say, you know, I suffer from migraines, and in my case, they are poorly documented and none of the apps that I use work. In the wake of the current war, a student who spent some time in the main rehabilitation center for soldiers and civilians remarked that while fitting the needs of the patients, it was ill-equipped for the caregivers and the families, which are extremely important for successful recovery. Backed by fieldwork and relevant research, the group created a detailed and feasible proposition concerning the rearrangement of that hospital wing. And
So,
that's the way it looks like.
Yeah, we're going to show that. Am I sharing? Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, but can you play it as a video?
Yeah. That is part of the work. And by the way, it is our job also to take works that can be implemented, that are feasible, and establish the connection with within the institute in order to take them, in order to implement them and to make connections with investors and other professionals and entrepreneurs and mentors. So
Yoel,
yeah.
we didn't see the video. We just saw the picture, the first
Didn't?
one.
I will try again.
If it doesn't work, I'll share.
Yeah, maybe you should share, Gili.
Okay, just a minute.
So, for example, this is part of the work, which is eventually, yeah, we can see it, which is eventually very insightful and quite feasible. And we had some works like something that related to remediate the problem of no-shows in public health to the next level.
Okay.
So following an initial idea, we then help refine the proper articulation of the problem and its proposed solution. We also help refine the novelty and originality of the idea compared with current solutions. This forms the basis of any given project, and this takes place during dedicated Zoom sessions with groups of students upon request at nearly any time of the day, and therein lies our secret ingredient for a successful course.
We take pride in being extremely generous with our time to our students. During those effectively become part of the group. And then the group as a whole seek to find a great idea for the project to work on. Fine-tuning various elements of the project, such as defining the problem, planning the system and the process, and also sharpening the innovation, is carried out in such follow-up meeting on Zoom. Sometimes it takes additional 2 meetings, each lasting about an hour, to achieve the desired result. Considering that we have 6 to 10 project groups in each of the 2 courses we teach in tandem, you are most welcome to conclude that we suffer from lack of sleep. Nevertheless, and in any case, we believe that this is the proper way to work and achieve the results we intend.
We are extremely generous with each other's time as well. It is not uncommon for me, for example, to call Gili at 6:40 to ask to ask something regarding something.
And I will reply at 6:47.
I remember something else at 6:53.
I'll forget to answer, but I will remember that we need to talk about something else at 7:02.
To which I'll answer about an hour later. The next morning, however, at 9:55, I'll call again because I will have forgotten my own answer and I really need Gili to remind me of it.
It then stops because it's Friday and we did schedule a Zoom session with that group at 10.
Those prolonged sessions are very important to us, to the students, to the course, and are equally important when compared with the regular weekly lessons.
One of the most occurrences in these meetings is when students see us engage in arguments or respectfully disagree, ultimately exploring a solution that is completely acceptable to each of us. This, in our opinion, is when students are exposed to the true meaning of academia.
In sociological terms, you could argue that the backstage and the front stage collapse or morph into one another. Contrarily to a lesson, there is not a preparation hidden from the students backstage, followed by an on-stage performance of that preparation as a lesson. Rather, the students are right there with us when we all think aloud, brainstorm, look for information online, disagree, defend our opinions, until we eventually settle for the best option.
Everything is out in the open. Chief among them is the acknowledgement that we don't know everything, and our attempt to address this are made through sharing information, being both supportive and critical of one another and finding answers. In fact, each of us is prepared from the beginning to risk exposing our weaknesses and to face challenges heroically while finding solutions through cooperation rather than independently. At the same time, we need to fully activate our sensors to understand how and to what extent to use this strategy, as it doesn't fit all students.
We never intended for any of this to happen. This was not a choice originally. This happens because we did not have enough time for all students in class or or at the institute during office hours when all are present or available. However, it eventually evolved into a choice, a pedagogical methodology of which we are extremely proud and highly motivated to carry on.
Our students are aware that they are witnessing something special. They understand that they are being let into a zone which is usually restricted, as if they were allowed to go behind the scene of a play or a movie. They get to see conflict, they get to see uncertainty, part taken in true processes, discussions, compromise and problem solving. When the students thank us for the course, they thank us first and foremost for this.
When they remember the course fondly, they tell us that they remember it because of this. When they recommend it to their friends, they do so highlighting that this is to be expected.
This is also a part of what we are teaching, content through form. We model our students. We say, that's the kind of dedication we expect of you. We expect you to reason like this, to discuss and phrase it professionally like this, to disagree that way, to find another way like that. We enlist our students to our willingness to be available at 10.
And there is also, of course, the personal differences that make us who we are that should be taken into account. Different approaches and different personalities that inspire different relations between students and teachers in all that concerns class management, for example.
It's something that grew out of our collaboration, how, for instance, a series of unofficial agreements that feels in a very natural between the two of us.
All courses are taught in the School of Multidisciplinary Studies. It is not the students' major subject. They're here to put to good use their talents on topics that are not directly related to their major, get out a little bit of their comfort zone, or to widen their academic horizons by opening up to new things they otherwise wouldn't necessarily have access to.
It's the age of AI, and it's not a secret. We think that we have entered an era characterized in part by the fact that a few clever prompts might get you to places that would have required much more effort previously. For example, a group's work that looks impressive, very impressive on paper, is submitted by students that wouldn't be able to defend it orally, completely, or comprehend it, or argue in favor of its implementation. These temptations, so to speak, to use various AI tools irresponsibly are part of our reality.
Indeed, aesthetics may be mistaken for professionalism, quantity used as a smokescreen for quality, the presence of a text masking the incomprehension of that same text, and the use of complex technologies to imply that they are adequately understood and mastered are quite routine.
In every class, we have excellent students whose seriousness is undisputable. We have the other students, and we have the vast majority that falls somewhere in between. And then there's us with our own personalities. Yoel is highly suspicious of students. For him, everyone is guilty of laziness until proven otherwise.
That's absolutely correct. For me, the student's life in the course begins drenched in sin. My questions are such as, where did they get that from? What are they trying to get away with? What is the effort that they're avoiding? Which hideous surprises await further down the line? For Gili, on the other hand, the students begin their life as truthful, honest, and well-intentioned. The sun is shining, the skies are blue, rivers of chocolate run through flowery meadows, which all of this is, of course, grossly mistaken, and has always been from the dawn of time until the end of days, when the earth collapses into itself. But nevertheless, I accept it.
Beyond Yoel's sense of humor, if I want to be precise, I can say that I really prefer to ask questions such as, what is the curiosity that motivates them? What good are they bring to the world? How life will be made better thanks to them? At the same time, I know very, very well that by discussing students' intentions and abilities together with Yoel, we will both sharpen our perception and bring it closer to reality.
And over each and every course, without fail, without any exceptions, not even one, my bleak and gloomy outlook will gradually brighten as Gili's skies darken.
There are several ways in which this completely unplanned and unintended emotional division of labor or repulsion is advantageous.
I'm usually, but not always, the first to pinpoint the problematic students and then enlist Gili to take them on early.
I'm usually, not always, the first to pinpoint the promising students and then enlist Yoel to push them as far as possible.
Second, in the evaluation of the works in both courses, there's never ever a question of who was the best and who was the worst, precisely because of this reason. Whether bitterly disappointing one of us or pleasantly surprising the other, the work's true nature reveals itself in all its glory.
or inglorious truth?
Third, and most importantly, the state of affairs helps in dealing with students who are maybe confrontational in nature. Pedagogically speaking, our strength in situations which are adversarial does not lie solely in authority or in numbers. Yes, a group of students would be less inclined to challenge two professors instead of one. But this dynamic must eventually be resolved, and the resolution is most likely to be achieved in a push-pull dynamic, in which a solution is offered as a potential appeasement, proposition, or escape from an otherwise oppressive predicament for the students.
And don't think for a second that you necessarily know who the good cops and the bad cops is going to be.
Sometimes we don't either. Basically, these are the rules that we have never clearly defined until today, but we always find ourselves using.
However, and this is the most important unspoken rule of all, in the event that we do find ourselves in disagreement over a body of work, the one that views the work negatively and immediately,
Always,
without fail,
unequivocally,
and absolutely without any hesitation whatsoever, defers to the one that views the work positively. Sometimes, but only sometimes, we do convince each other, but if there is some persistence, the issue is resolved in that fashion. That one precious rule ties everything together.
So, you've heard how we build courses and teach while complementing each other,
How we teach independently from one another,
how we feed off each other's ideas.
how we benefit from each other's personal strengths,
You've heard what the secret sauce is,
what our challenges are,
how we resolve various issues,
how much we like each other and working with each other.
and that's about it. We welcome any questions and even encourage you to take a minute to think about any aspect of such a course that you would like to develop. What would be the subject? What would you like to do with it? Who would you like to do it with? In what ways would it be multidisciplinary? What would you bring to the table? And if you want to share, please do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, both of you, for your presentation. So now the floor is open for questions. I have a few. So you can write it on the chat. I will start. So, Hubertus, do you have a question?
I do, but I would like you to go first.
This is opposite to my manners, but okay, I will do. So thank you very much. Since for me, these are things it's like a very attractive idea, but very new. So I will start with my first question. Following your presentation, it's obvious that you have prepared the scenario, because the way that you spoke, the way that you interchanged the roles, it was a scenario. So this scenario is prepared before the class, or has been built because of your experience in the class? Because now you have the scenario. This is my first question. So do you have a scenario? Have you prepared a scenario before you go to the class? How are you going to coordinate your intervention, or this happens spontaneous?
Well, the class is prepared, for example, but there are adjustments being made to that preparation in real time. Each course is different from the other. I would say that that the proportion of pre-preparedness and improvisation is about 80-20, 80%, 20%. Gili, would you agree?
Yes, and there's another important thing. Most of the time we are together in the class, so this improvisation is running in live, so we don't have to work too hard to prepare it and to make this synchronization. It just happens, and we know each other for something like, I think, 6 years, Yoel? We are teaching together 6 years, so we know each other, we know our methods, we know what the other thinks about a certain situation generally, and in cases we just have problems, we stop the discussion and just talk elsewhere in another time and start from the beginning. So, but what we don't have problems to just argue in class.
So let me, I would like to to become very clear to me. So is there, because you said you knew 6 years, but what has happened in the first month?
Exactly.
So have you prepared yourself a scenario, let's say 80-20, and then of course you adjust as the situation comes. This is what you should do. So is there a scenario before the class?
Yes, there is a scenario before the class.
This is enough for me.
But it's not only that. Even the improvisation is prepared. We know where we are going to improvise. And since every course starts with new subjects, eventually the course usually begins very well prepared and then evolves as fitting itself to the subjects and the projects chosen by the students.
Excellent. Excellent.
Can I add something? Can I add something, class? As someone myself with teaching 9 years in tandem with Eli, it is a process. It's like a little bit like marriage, okay? It's a process. So you start with a position that you really don't even know how, like you don't know even how to argue. So the beginning, if you disagree, you don't know how to disagree. So it's all these little things in relations so we know the material very well because we are very professional about what we study, and a learning curve is how to have these relationship in class. And because the class usually as we plan it, or the pedagogical approach, is not that although we have the outline of the class, but we are allowed to interfere with each other's sections and say, well, pay attention to what Yoel is saying now, look at this. Or, Yoel, I'm thinking about this. I don't totally agree with you. Or something happened last week that made me think differently. So this is, and how we say that, because I remember the first course, it was horrible. We really did not know how to disagree. We knew how to agree. We didn't know how to disagree. So, and we wanted to reflect that. It was important to reflect to the students how we disagree, because we wanted them to do the same. We wanted them to think, to be able to, because it's multidisciplinary and they have different opinion and different approaches, we wanted them to express that. We had to teach them how to express that. We had to teach ourselves first how to do that in front of them, to give them, quote unquote, the permission to behave, to behave in a diverse way. So it's a process of many years to do that. And for that, sometimes you need people that are a little bit different, not only professionally, but also in character.
So they mentioned this very clearly in their
they asked why I matched them. Okay, 6 years ago, I made the match. They didn't know each other. These two didn't know each other, okay? I made the match. And it's only intuition, of course, nothing, no brain, just intuition. But the thing is that you have to be a little different to accommodate each other. And that's also, I think, secret in every relationship, but especially no ego, or so that's something I want to add. Thank you.
I think that there are two important pillars that make the story succeed: respect and flexibility.
Yes. I mean, respect should be even, how do you argue? Because, I suspect that you know how to argue, even if you have met, in the first day. I will come back to something else. My final part of the first question, and then I will provide the floor to Hubertus, is like, is there any debriefing after the lecture between each of you?
Many, many and long ones.
Okay.
We always learn and have new insights.
Excellent. And this debriefing happens after each lecture or after each semester?
No, after each meeting,
Lecture.
after
Okay,
each
this is what I would
lecture,
expect.
after
So-
each Zoom session.
Yeah, I will come back to my questions, but first of all, now I will follow my manners and I will provide the floor to Hubertus.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful talk and the wonderful discussion. I feel, excited about all of this, and I have a few comments and questions. One comment is that I really liked the way how you worked out that there is a difference between sort of cognitive processes and emotional processes or affective processes. I think I forgot, like in the last few weeks and months, as I thought about co-teaching, I forgot about the affective quality or didn't point to that much, enough. And the questions that I have for you is, would you say that collaboration between two instructors results in, say, a new space of collaboration where the instructors somehow suddenly develop new skills because they talk to their colleague? I think you called that inspiration or improvisation at one point in time, that things happen suddenly. And the other question is, if you had to justify co-teaching to a dean, somebody in the administration, what would you say is the added benefit for the instructors on the one hand side and the students on the other hand side? And I think you kind of pointed to that already, but maybe you could explicate it a bit more. Thank you.
So, Gilly, would you like to?
You'll start.
Okay. I do, first of all, regarding the emotional division of labor, as we phrased it, I think that we didn't expect we didn't expect it either, but it is part of the cognitive, the physical, the emotional. We as different people, we do different things differently, and we have a little bit exaggerated for comedic purposes my role as me being a hater and Gilly being loving and caring. We are both that thing and the opposite, but there really is affective aspects to that. Whether a new space, whether we create a new space in which new information is formed. For the most time, I would be inclined to say no, but some of the time, and this is really and this is a mirror image of the preparedness of the course and the improvisation. But some of the time, I will learn new things from Gilly. For example, there's something that I remember very clearly that struck me that I didn't know, is the importance of the emotion of contempt in hostility. And I found that it entered my my own lectures and my own materials. It like seeped in, and I'm sure that there are things that Gilly has heard from me that she incorporated it. So I wouldn't call it a space in which new things are created. I would argue that that there are mostly subtle cross contaminations or influences between lecturers that that suddenly you find yourself teaching cooking your own stew with the other person's spices. So that's the best analogy or metaphor I could give to that. Regarding how to justify such a course, well, I think that for students, and we really genuinely believe that there is something about teaching in tandem that forces lecturers to be much more exposed in front of their students than they would otherwise be, or they would like to. And I think that has tremendous pedagogic value and impact, because students don't just see a one-sided transference of information of someone who knows to someone who doesn't. They see a dynamic that evolves. So that's as far as as this is concerned, as the students are concerned. And I think that lecturers who work together, if they don't kill each other after 1 month or 2 or 6, then eventually grow to, as Nava says, to develop some kind of relationship that they conduct research together, they do other things together, they enrich each other's professional lives, they lecture together, and so on and so forth. So there is the fact that you force two people to move in together, eventually something is going to come out of it.
The chance to create something very new, not to add a field to another, is growing when brainstorming starting to work. And it all depends in the relationship between the two lecturers. This is the secret.
I mean, Hubertus.
I think we came to the point that we know what the other is thinking about a certain case, a certain person, a certain student.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I find your answers extremely helpful, and I totally agree with this idea of cross-fertilization. And I'm just in the process of trying to understand co-teaching more systematically. So I highly value your answers. Thank you.
So, all right. So I have another question, like regarding how do you match people? I mean, Nava mentioned that he has matched you. All right. So I suspect that she had some criteria in order how to match you, even from the first, instance. So that criteria, do they include, let's say, different, characters regarding the culture? Someone is more funny, as you mentioned, and the other one is more serious. Regarding the humor, no, regarding the knowledge.
Can I answer that?
I have another. Let me finish. And the other is like the different disciplines. But regarding different disciplines, from the same discipline, different expertises, or completely different disciplines, because we are physicists, but someone is a laser physicist, someone is like biophysicist, or do we speak about mixing a philosopher with a technologist? So what are the criteria in order to match, and then experiment, of course, because this is an experiment, the co-teaching academic stuff.
Can I start answering, please?
I don't mind myself, only the answer.
It's okay, Yoel, Gili?
Go.
Yeah.
The thing is not about the skills. We start from the topic. You remember that 2 months ago, you came to me, Kostas, and you said, I have a dream to have a course about leadership, right? So that was your dream that we needed to fulfill. We had a theme for the course. We start from the course. We don't start from the skills. We start from the course. What is it that we want to bring to the course? It's a course on leadership, okay? Then it's a course about, so according to, so either we start from the topic of the course and see who can do that, and if the course is multidisciplinary, like I teach wearable computing, I need someone in wearable computing that understands technology, someone who understands design, someone that understands user interface, and I go from the topic. Or that there are two people who want to work together, and then we ask them to sit together and decide what is it that they want to do and to come up. But the leading thing is what is the topic of the content of the course, and how we can fit these skills into the content. And then you decide if you want to do smart cities, who can do smart cities and what aspect. The leading criteria is that the course has to be multidisciplinary, and for multidisciplinary students without prior expertise. So that's the guideline, and from that we start. So that's how we think who is most appropriate. Of course, it's not about funny or not funny. These are things that created after. I think without humor you cannot survive. You cannot survive this with a lot of ego and without it's small, not a big ego and not small humor. So you need to do the opposite: a lot of humor and very small ego. That's also a requirement. I want to also say something not politically correct. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, and we have failed. We have failed. I mean, we had a team that worked together that at some point, one of the lecturers said, listen, it's too much work. I cannot, it's like, I cannot do this bonding with the other person. Okay, so as also me, or the people responsible, they need to be sensitive to that as well. It's not something you can coerce. It's something that needs to come from, that's why I said intuition. There's a lot of intuition here, a lot of effective, as Huberto said. It has to come at the will, because it's more work than teaching alone. I want to say that. It's more work. It's more work physically, mentally, academically than teaching alone. It's not equal to, and we share the points. It's something that they always ask me when we come to Greece and we have the International Week. They always tell me, you share the point. Yeah, we share the points. We share everything in this course. So it's the willingness to create something new out of an effort that is unusual. So Hubertus, your challenge will be to bring people along on board, agreeing to assist and help to do more work. So now we need to talk about the benefit, and the benefit you heard. So maybe after a few years it becomes easier.
You did not mention one benefit, however.
No.
By listening you, I think that this is an excellent tool in order to build the emotional intelligence of the academics and the teachers.
No, but we are perfect, Kostas. We are perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this is very good. I was thinking.
No, but imagine to yourself. That's why Hillel is here. Hillel is now perfecting his skills in doing beeps and the joint courses, because this is in Israel. Now imagine to yourself that you have one from Israel, one from Belgium, one from Portugal, one from Greece. It's even more difficult to do that. Okay, so again, we are trying to work in different environments and to bring value to the students and to ourselves and to the world of academic, which is very traditional. Not easy, but very much possible.
And yeah, you complicate the thing because you place the aspect of the culture now. If you involve people from different nationalities. It's like it's the character, the culture, and all the things that we have mentioned. I will provide the floor now to Hubertus before. I think I need to close because then we can
Sure.
discuss.
We need to. I want to say something on the benefits that I see. I think in the ideal case, you teach two subjects, but you teach them differently in comparison to a situation where students would simply take one class with one instructor and another class with another instructor. If you co-teach, you basically teach two subjects, but in a way that is different and beneficial, highly beneficial to the students. And it's more beneficial than taking two separate classes with two separate instructors. I think that's the benefit.
I mean, definitely. It's also a benefit for the university because you save time. Because, you know, in once you teach two courses and you help the students to combine. So it's a benefit for money for the university as well. So I would like to, I have a lot of questions, but, you know, I'm not going to ask all the questions now. I will stop here for one reason, because I would like to propose, like on the 12th International Week, I would like to create a whole workshop, a whole day, organized by the team of Cologne to make, you know, this as a live workshop, you know, to the people that they will be there with a scenario. I mean, because I have a question, for example, I have some answers. How do you prepare such a course before, during, and after? So I think that this will be an ideal workshop, you know, for the 12th International Week from the 2 to the 6th of June in Crete. And also, I would like to say that another, you know, session will be like to share experiences about coils. So, Hubertus, you are very welcome to come and visit us in Hania with the team in Cologne. I mean, we consider Cologne as, you know, something like as a standard for our international week. So I don't ask to them. You know, I am expecting to be there. And then we can, you know, in the second day or in the third day, we can share good policies about coils. And, you know, we then to discuss how do we adapt this co-teaching in virtual exchanges. Because for me, it's easier to adapt co-teaching in virtual exchanges as virtual exchanges described, and it's more challenging. What they are doing in Cologne is even harder, you know, as live session. So this is my two proposals, like to organize in the international, and then we have technologies that Eli, my friend, will come, Eli Sumueli. And I think that we will have, you know, because the International Week will be only about virtual internationalization and co-teaching. This will be the topic. So I propose to the team of Cologne to travel, you know, all together to Crete from the 2 to the 6th of June. Then Hubertus will join us from Germany and other people that I will invite about coils. And I think this will make a very nice conclusion at the end. So I'm not going to ask my question. I will keep my question. I have more questions when we will meet in Crete. And that's it from my side. I would like to thank Noga, the PIP Nava, and of course, Yoel and Gili. About your participation, about the discussion, and about the participation of all of you. I think that we are going to continue. This will lead, you know, to a lot of kind of improvements on how do we teach. Independent if we follow all the scenario of co-teaching, there are elements there that also can be borrowed, you know, even for a single shot. How do we say, one man show or whatever in the classroom. Noga, you raised your hand before we close, or it's like
by mistake?
By mistake. No mistakes.
I just wanted to put this, and it went to the raise hand.
Excellent. So we will continue this because I think that we're going to have a second session of this co-teaching. I will speak with Nava and Noga. Thank you very much. Stay safe and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.